everyone, and welcome. This is the Voice of the People live stream. I'm Sandra Christensen, candidate for District 4, State House of Representatives. And today I'm super excited because I have a very special guest. Her name is Natalie Lizarraga. Natalie is going to be a first-time voter. And so we're going to talk about a lot of different things and we're going to do a Q&A and just figure out the but how to vote and how to register to vote and all things election. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah. So you missed the last election by how many days or weeks?
By 1 week.
Are you kidding?
So I was just right there. So that
So
was a
you didn't
bummer.
get to vote.
I
You
did
didn't
not get to vote. No,
Well, so are you registered to vote?
I'm not.
Yes.
I don't even know where to begin with
Okay,
that process.
Great. Then
So,
this is gonna be a good day then, because I'm gonna walk you through this, and I have my phone because I know I'm a little bit older than you are. I have a son that's your age, and so everything's done on the phone. So I purposely didn't bring my big laptop. I brought my phone so that I can show you and walk you through how to get registered to vote.
great.
So one of the things when people are registering to vote, there's several different ways. You can have people come and knock on your door, and they will have a paper registration that you fill out. That's usually not the preferred method for those in your cohort or your genre of people. So there's other ways to vote too. Sometimes people will bring a QR code and you can scan it and then fill it out online. Also, the motor vehicle department, when do you have a driver's license? Do you drive?
Yes, I do.
Often when people go to the motor vehicle department to update everything, they will ask you, do you want to register to vote? So that's another way you can.
Okay.
But one of the simplest ways that you and your friends can do it. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of ways. So the first way is called ballotready.vote. And so I'm going to show you on my phone here. And so it's ballotready.vote. And this is really handy because it's so easy to use. So if you see here, it can show you the election dates and voter dashboard. This is very nice. Whether or not you're registered to vote yet, you can kind of go through and see different milestones. So one of the first things it says is important election dates, right? And so here we have what's called a primary. And I don't want to be condescending, but I'm going to talk in very basic terms.
Yeah,
Since
that
you
works for me.
haven't
That's
voted.
great. Yeah.
Okay. So do you know what a primary election is?
I don't think I could really explain it to someone, but I've heard the term.
Okay.
Familiar.
So when I first ran for school board, I did not have a primary election because that's on a school board in Arizona, that's considered nonpartisan. Nonpartisan means they don't put whether you're Republican, Independent, Democrat, no party preference. They don't put anything like that. A nonpartisan race is just that. It's just everybody's name is on the ballot and you don't necessarily know what party they're from. Okay. So school boards and local races tend to be nonpartisan. So your city councils, things like that.
Gotcha.
So school boards don't have a primary. So they go to a general election, which is in November. But what a primary is there's something called partisan elections. So we have generally a two-party system. There's more than one party in our state and nationwide, but generally it's Democrat, Republican for a primary. A primary is getting people ready to have their candidates selected before the general election. The general election is where those people will get elected to office, but the primary is kind of like in sporting terms, it's kind of the warm-up, if you will, but it prepares people. You go from a certain number of candidates to the number that is on the election for the general. So for instance, I'm on a school board and I ran nonpartisan first, but now I'm running in a different type of race and it is a partisan election. So there are 3 candidates for 2 spots. I happen to be a Republican, but it's going to be the same for the Democrats, okay?
Okay.
So there's 3 of us running for 2 spots. So in a primary election, people will go out and vote for whoever they want to represent them in the general election, which is going to be November.
Okay.
This year, our primary election is July 21st.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it is at a time when a lot of people are on vacation. You just got back from school.
I did.
Right? What school do you go to?
I go to the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
In Knoxville, Tennessee.
And when do you go back to school?
August 1st.
Okay, August 1st. So you will be here for the primary. So you can register to vote. I will show you on here. So here are the general election dates. So June 6th for our primary here in Arizona is when the military and overseas people can do that. Let me go back to here. See, I'm old. If you were navigating on the phone, it would be a lot easier, but I'm going to go back. So important election dates. And okay. So all the dates come up, and then June 22nd is the last day to register to vote. So as long as you register by June 22nd, you can register. Now, this is very interesting. A lot of people think we have election day, but in Arizona, we kind of have an election season.
Okay.
So June 24th, you can actually start voting in person and get a mail-in ballot.
Okay.
And then the last day to vote is July 21st.
And what would be your recommendation for kids my age who are voting for the first time? Would you recommend a mail-in ballot or would you recommend going in person? Or do you have a preference?
So my preference is to go in person because to me, it feels like more of the process. I just like selecting. I like going and waiting. I know people don't like waiting in lines, but I just like the process. It feels like you are part of the American system. And when you mail it in, there's advantages to both, right?
Okay.
So when you mail in, it's less intimidating for people. They can fill it out in the privacy of their own home, and then they can send it in to the mail. Well, I think a lot of people, at least in my generation, it's older, we didn't have mail-in growing up, and so we were used to going to a polling place. But I think for the first time, but it's up to you. You know, we have the ability to do both. I think for you, I think it would be fun.
Totally, I agree.
To go in and just see what it's about. You go in, check in, you have your ID, and
It feels very official.
Yeah, it feels a lot more official. But the date for you, remember that June 22nd date, that is when, you have to register before that.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the other website that I wanted to show you is the recorder's office. So it's recorder.maricopa.gov.
Okay.
And that one is another good website and good resource for you and your friends to have. So I'm going to put that in there. And the reason that's a good resource is because you can get alerts. So it's very important to, at least for me, I want to make sure if I vote that my vote is counted. And so the nice thing about the recorder's office, when you go on their website, they'll give you alerts. So it'll say, if you sign up to be a mail-in person, it'll say, hey, I think right now people are getting alerts. Your ballot is being prepared if you want to vote by mail. And so the people that have voted by mail and signed up for that, they're starting to get alerts now for that. But for you, if you want to do in person, it'll say, okay, here's the dates and this is the information you need. When you turn in your ballot, whether it's, I'm assuming you're going to do in person, it'll tell you when it's processed and when it's received. So here's another little factoid that a lot of people don't know. In Arizona, when you vote on election day, which for the primary, it's going to be June 21st.
Okay.
We have what's called tabulators, and tabulators you'll vote and you will give it to somebody or you will put it into the machine and it'll tabulate it that day. When you vote in person early or by mail, it has to go through a different process. So it's not automatically tabulated. So it's not right or wrong. I just like to explain that to people because a lot of people when they go to vote in person early, they think it's going to be tabulated immediately, but the way our laws are written, it's not.
And why is
So
that?
it's that's actually a really good question. I don't know why, but what I do know is that the way our laws are written, the the, the tabulator machines are live and available that day, the election day. And I think part of it is because there's not a lot of locations and sites open early.
Okay.
What happens is that they will get those ballots will get put in a safe space, and then there's called chain of custody. Chain of custody is, making sure that your ballots are safe and secure. And so your ballot, once you release that, if you vote early, then it'll be taken to a voting center, and then it'll be tabulated at a later date.
Okay.
So that was a lot. So do you have any questions on the process or some of the dates coming up? I'm going to pull up that.
So just to
website again.
clarify, June 6th is when you're able to start voting, and June 22nd is when you have to be registered by?
So June 22nd. So June 1st one was for the military. 'Cause
Oh,
they're
okay.
the ones that are overseas.
Right. Okay.
So the last day for you to register to vote would be June 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that's the deadline. And then you can start voting. You have to wait till you get the notice that you're able to vote.
Okay.
And then June 24th for everybody that has been registered for this primary that's when mail-in ballots show up.
Okay.
And early voting can start.
Okay.
The last day to vote is July 21st.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so if I were to go in person to go register to vote or online, how long does that take to process before I'm able to actually vote? Is it a quick process?
It is a quick process. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wouldn't recommend waiting till the last minute.
Right.
I would, if you're sure that you're going to vote in this election, which I would encourage you to, do it as soon as possible.
Okay.
We do have a question coming in from the YouTube Live. It's kind of a simple one.
Okay.
If you don't vote in the primaries, can you still vote in the general election?
Absolutely, you can. And I'm going to back up a little bit. So my son was in your situation the last election, but he had the cutoff. He's a July 15th birthday.
Okay.
So he was able to vote in the last election. And he was not registered Democrat or Republican. And so in order for him to vote in the primary, he had to request a ballot of a certain party. And so that's something that is, I don't know if it's unique to Arizona, but people think that, well, if I'm independent or a different party, I can't vote in the primary. That's actually not the case. You actually can, but you have to request it. So, but if you don't vote in the primary, you don't get to select the people that are going on to the general. So that's why I always encourage people to vote in both the primary and the general, because then you have more options.
Okay.
And people, the whole point of voting is to select people to represent you. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think we live in a constitutional republic, or do we have a democracy? Do you know? And a lot of adults don't know this answer. So
I don't want to give my answer when I don't feel super.
no, that's fine. Well, what I will tell you is that we have a form of democracy, but it's a constitutional republic. A republic is a representative. We have a representative republic so I'm an elected official, right? The voters in my district, Paradise Valley School Board, elected me to represent them, right? In a pure democracy, that is majority plus one, so it's kind of majority rules. We don't have that, and the reason we don't have that is our founding fathers decided to give us a republic because they thought it would be more fair and it would allow more voices to be heard so that it's not just majority rule. Even the smaller states, even the people that are in the minority in whatever category, that they would have a chance to vote. And then we as elected officials are supposed to represent you. So given that explanation, um, have you decided, you're seeing all these signs go up right now, right? Have you seen? They're kind of an eyesore. What makes you just attracted to different things? Do you think the signs are just an eyesore, or do you think it's kind of cool? What is your opinion on that? Because that's part of the process of me as somebody that wants to be an elected official in a different, now I'm going to be running for the state house. I have to get my name out there, and there's different ways for us to do that. But you, as a new voter, do you pay attention to that? I'm just curious.
Well, that's funny you asked that. Actually, I was driving yesterday. I was on 24th Street and Glendale. Right in that intersection, there's a bunch of signs up. And I mean, when I'm sitting at a red light, I'm not, I mean, yes, sometimes I do peek down at my phone. But yesterday, I was not peeking down. I was just, zoning out, and I was looking at these signs. So I do think that it's important to put signs up just because, I mean, I saw your sign actually. And so just seeing these signs, it makes your name recognizable. And I mean, I did recognize the other names as well, but I think I would not say that I would see those signs and necessarily go to my phone to go look up more information. But that's also just me being a 19-year-old. I do think for someone like me, social media is really important. So I think having a social media presence is important because that's where a lot of kids my age are on, and that's where they're getting their information. But I think in terms of making your name recognizable, I do think a sign is important because now I see them all over the place in every intersection. And so I'm familiar with the names. But like I said, I do think social media is probably the best way to get your name out there for kids my age. That's my opinion.
And what social media sites would be important for people like me that is older? I didn't grow up with social media, but I use it. In your opinion, what type of social media sites would be helpful?
Definitely TikTok. Everyone, I think, is on TikTok now. I'm not really on TikTok as much as Instagram, but I would say Instagram and TikTok would be my number one suggestions. All of my friends at school they all talk about it. They complain about themselves, actually, how funny it is, that they just spend so much time on TikTok. So I think it's really important to be on TikTok. And Instagram, of course, as well. I'm not really on X or YouTube. Or, I mean, I feel like Facebook is kind of, like my parents are on Facebook. But
Exactly.
but I'm not really on Facebook at all. But I would say TikTok and Instagram for sure.
And have you seen any political people on TikTok while you're scrolling, or does it depend? Because I know the feeds are very interesting, and it kind of feeds whatever your interests are. And at this stage of your life, politics is not on your top 10.
Right. No, I mean, I'm a political science student, so I love talking about this stuff. But like I said, I'm not on TikTok very much. But one thing about TikTok is if I were to go on there and look up a question, the algorithm picks up on that. And so if I were to go on TikTok and look up a political question or something about the election, I'm assuming that my algorithm would start to show videos here and there. But no, I honestly haven't really. I don't know if that's because I'm in Knoxville and I'm assuming my phone knows my location at all times. So I'm not really getting politicians from Arizona on my Instagram feed or my TikTok feed. But I mean, if I start to look questions up, or because a lot of people go to TikTok and Instagram for information now, I would say, instead of just going straight to Google. So I would be curious to see if I were to look up a question, especially being in Arizona during this summer, if people would slowly start to appear on my feed. But as of right now, no, I'm not really seeing too many politicians on my social media feed.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my next question. You kind of led into it. Where do you and the people that you hang out with get your news sources? Is that you mentioned social media. So are you saying that you don't typically go to Google? I heard you say to look stuff up anymore. Can you walk me through that? Because this is just so foreign to me. As I mentioned, I do have a son your age, but I grew up in just a totally different era and time. So it's fascinating to me. So can you explain that?
Yeah. For me personally, I like I said, I'm not on TikTok that much, so I will, instead of going to TikTok, I will go to Google. But like I was saying about my friends earlier, they are all on TikTok. So if they hear about something, the first place they go is TikTok. But the issue with that, I think, is that they'll look up an issue or something that's going on in the world, and they'll watch a video of someone else explaining it. So it's not obviously always completely accurate. And so I just feel like that's how things just get misinterpreted. But yeah, people look up things on Instagram and TikTok all the time, and it's just word of mouth, people explaining this, and someone hears that and makes another video explaining something. But for me personally, like I said, I'm a political science student, and so in a lot of my classes, we start the day off actually by like talking about news and things that are going on in the world and in our country. So that's where I get a lot of news from. That's where I hear a lot. And people in my class, I mean, people are always talking about it, just like different things that are happening and things that are interesting. But I would definitely say kids my age are going to TikTok to look
That's very
certain things
interesting.
up,
Very
which
interesting.
which I don't think is obviously always the best. Because just watching like a 30-second video of someone who probably isn't the most educated trying to explain an issue. But yeah, I would say TikTok and Instagram, just social media.
So what for somebody your age, what would resonate with you for a candidate? Because there's all types of candidates, and politicians. Just the name politician doesn't really you know appeal to a lot of people. So for somebody your age, what would you look for in a candidate, and how would you vet them? Have you thought about it, or has that not crossed your mind
In terms
yet?
of types of content or what you would
Who
be,
you would like to vote for?
can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
No, absolutely. And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, no.
I'm just fascinated by this because this whole thing with social media and coming to light. When I first got a chance to vote, it was many, many, many decades ago, and we didn't have social media, and I didn't really know anything. I had just seen some candidates on TV. Do you remember TV?
Do you remember TV? Don't watch it very often.
I'm just kidding. And so I would see people on TV, and then I just would look, and my parents didn't tell me how to vote or who to vote for. I was just so confused. I just randomly clicking things. Back then, we had levers, and then we pulled the lever, and then it voted. I grew up in New Mexico, but I didn't do research. But to me, I think your generation is very well informed on a lot of different things. My son, for instance, he vets things and he looks things up. So I'm just curious, how have you thought about how you're going to prepare yourself to be able to vote in this next election coming up?
I haven't too much, but what I will say is when I hear about someone new or someone asks if I know something or find out about a new restaurant, my first instinct is to go to Instagram just to see what kind of page they have and if they have a page. And I feel like that's kind of the same for a lot of my friends and people that I know, just because we're so, like, my generation is so dependent on social media for so many things that I feel like when you go on social media and you see someone with a following or they've been consistently posting, it kind of builds, like, you kind of like trust in the fact that they're a real legit person, or like, if that makes sense. I think if I were to hear someone's name and go to social media and they had no social media presence at all, or like one follower, that's kind of like, it kind of pushes you away a little.
Okay.
So I feel like a
That's
lot
good
of
to know.
people, I feel like a lot of kids my age will go to social media if they're trying to inform themselves on who a candidate is. So I think that's really important for politicians like yourself to
It's good
build that
information
presence.
for us to know.
I don't know if people would necessarily be going to a politician's website to inform themselves, just because I feel like
Interesting.
we just go to social media for everything, which I know isn't the best, but it's just how our generation is. Not to speak for everyone, but the majority of people that I'm talking to, everything is social media, is revolving around social media and different things
Well,
like that.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So I'm just very curious, what issues are important to you? You're just starting out your adulthood, right? You're going to college, you're getting your degree. What issues are important to you? Because I'm knocking doors and I'm talking to people live, and I'm, doing this live stream and getting questions. So I love to hear from different types of people, different groups of people. So for you, what do you think would be important?
Like, what's most important to me right now? I think being across the country and being a young girl in college, definitely safety. That's
Mhm.
always, I mean, wherever I'm going, because I'm going places alone a
Yep.
lot now, and doing things on my own. So definitely safety. Also, I've realized growing up how just expensive everything is.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just like even going grocery shopping to cook myself dinner for one night. It's just
Mhm.
crazy to see how expensive everything is. So probably inflation.
Yes.
Um, I don't know. I also think a big issue to me right now is just how it just seems like everything is so polarized, and I
Yes.
really don't like that at all just because I do like to talk about things, and like I've said many times already before, like my major being political science, I would like to go to class and have the ability to talk to someone who has
Have
a
some
different opinion.
discord. Yeah.
Right. And so I just that's been really important to me honestly since 2020 and COVID when I feel like everything kind of started people just really started attacking each other over this stuff.
Agreed.
So I don't know. I just think building trust within your community, even if you have a differing opinion from your next door neighbor. I just feel like that's like just a really big issue right now is everyone feels so on edge talking about anything. So I feel like that creates a problem with kids in my generation because they'd honestly rather just not mess with politics because
Yes.
it's such a messy world right
No,
now.
I agree. And so it's interesting because as I mentioned, I'm on a school board, and
Mhm.
school boards are nonpartisan.
Mhm.
I happen to be a Republican. I'm on a board with 4 Democrats,
Mhm.
but to me, when I get up there, I'm representing everybody, not
Mhm.
just the Republican base. It's nonpartisan, but we're representing the schools.
Mhm.
And I just feel for me, it's important to hear all voices. I have a lot of people that really think I'm doing a great job, and other people think that I'm not
Mhm.
because I don't align with their values. But what I really strive to do is to at least hear people out. And I
Mhm.
think that's what we've been missing a lot in
Yeah.
this, what you're talking about, that polarization. And
Mhm.
so, at least for me,
Mhm.
I think being on a school board has really helped, but also being a mom,
Mhm.
because moms kind of have to hear everything from the whole family. And
Mhm.
I think we have this superpower and ability to hear and process and then make decisions for, how to move forward.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what do you feel about that?
I think it's really important to get to the point where everyone or you can just start to agree to disagree.
Yes.
Just because no one can seem to do that anymore. And I feel like no matter what it is, if it's about politics or just having an
Mhm.
argument with someone, just
Mhm.
anything, just being willing to hear the other person out and understand their logic and just understanding where everyone's coming from. So like I really like that you strive to do that and you want to represent everyone regardless of their party or what their differing opinion might be. Um but I have a lot of respect for moms because, like you said, like, you're trying to account for everyone, including yourself. Um, but I just feel like we're really at the point where people aren't even willing to just hear the other person out,
I agree.
and I just think it's really important to be able especially because 'cause we're all I mean, I'm 19, I'm entering adulthood,
Yeah.
and so people are just so afraid to have hard conversations
Yeah.
and just hear the other person out. I don't know, it's just
It's so interesting you said that. So I had a school board meeting last week, and one of we have this parent student handbook,
okay.
and one of the things that they're trying to do is change the language in there. And this is going back to um, being on a nonpartisan school board, but I was animately opposed to putting something in there called hate speech, not because I'm for hate speech,
Mhm.
but my question was, who gets to decide what is hate speech? And I used an example that happened in that school board meeting because
Mm.
there was a people came, public comment, and several people were upset about an issue, and then 2 people were not upset about the issue. So who gets to decide? Is it the
Right.
majority? Is there rules? And then when I asked the question out loud, it was stated to me like, well, they pulled up a very vague definition of hate speech that included, race and
Mm.
gender and things like that. But I bring this up because it we are so polarized, and
Mhm.
I personally didn't feel that that needed to be put in there because um, if somebody was joking, for instance,
Mhm.
hey, hate
Okay.
speech, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to just stay in my
Mhm.
middle lane here. But if say that I saw this microphone and I was convinced that this is purple,
Mhm.
and you were convinced that it is darker. It's a black microphone, right? But I was just that I dug myself in. If you said, well, that is this, and then I got offended and I just assumed that you were being hateful. Is that hate speech? I don't know. So to me, we're getting into this fine line of things. Is your generation to that point where you're kind of afraid to even say things out loud, or are you getting to the point where you're just over it? I'm just so curious on how there's been so many rules and things like you can't say this, you can't like. Where do you go?
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of experienced both in college. I mean, there's definitely some people who are very like, that's not my business. If that's what one person wants to say that is, or that's a purple microphone, okay, whatever. But then there's other people, which I would say a majority of people that I've been around are just very over it. I mean, it's just gotten to the point where I feel like things are just getting very ridiculous. And I think people are kind of getting fed up with it.
How do we get past that? Because I'm a lot older than you, old enough to be your mother, and I'm to the point where I'm fed up as well. But I don't know what the answer is, and we're looking. I think some of us are really looking to you guys, the future leaders, to kind of take the torch. Not right now, maybe per se, but just for the future. How do we get past this? How do we start treating people with kindness and getting humanity back to where we can, as you stated, agree to disagree? What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like that's such a hard question.
It is a hard question.
Because I don't know where to start. I
don't think any of us know the answer.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think a lot, but like I was saying, I feel like a lot of kids my age are starting to recognize just how ridiculous and out of hand everything is getting. And I mean, we are the next generation to enter the workforce and run for political office. And so I feel like it's important that the people who want to enter into those positions are remembering or recognizing, okay, there are issues happening right now that need to be addressed, and we need to make a change. I do think a lot of people are wanting to make a change because it's just getting so exhausting.
It is.
And I think it's really important too, because I feel like my professors do a good job at welcoming people to opening up.
You mean
a
with
debate.
differing ideas?
Yes. For example, a couple weeks ago, my professor, we had a whole class just dedicated to talking about issues that are happening in the world, and there were people
from hot topics.
Yes, and there were people from both sides giving their opinions. And I think that's where it needs to begin, is people just need to start by being open to listening to the other side, or listening to someone who has a different opinion, and just recognizing that it is okay to have a friend who doesn't necessarily agree with you on everything. But yeah, I just think that entering into, like I was saying, the workforce and just different higher up positions, those people need to do a good job at recognizing that we're in a state that needs to kind of be addressed and changed.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. Do you have any other thoughts on, just anything? Well, first, before we end, I want to know what you plan on doing with your degree after. Do you know yet? What are your aspirations? I'm just so curious.
Yeah, I would love to. My goal is to go to law school, so I will hopefully be going to law school. From there, I don't know. I don't really know exactly the type of law I want to enter into, but I'm kind of just keeping an open mind with that and seeing what comes my way and what interests me. I'm definitely, my major is political science with an international relations concentration. So I really like that area of law. I took an international law class this semester, which that's probably been my favorite class I've taken in college.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm going to law school, but I don't know what type of law I want to do quite yet. So,
and I just want to encourage you, because you can reinvent yourself all the time. And so it's part of the journey of finding out who you are. I am almost, I don't even know how old I am, I'm 57. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I've done so many things, but the point is, I've lived a rich life, and I've felt like I've been very blessed. But you don't have to have it all figured out coming out. And so I think sometimes we tend to put a lot of pressure on our, you graduate from high school and then tell us what you want to do, and then hurry up and do that and go to college or go to a trade school. And so I would just encourage you to just take a breath and enjoy the space you're in now,
Mhm.
because you're never going to be this age again. You're never going to
No.
have this type of freedom.
Mhm.
And so I just want to encourage you to just try to reinvent yourself, and it's okay to make mistakes,
Mhm.
and that's part of learning. I
Mhm.
think that we've gotten to the point where we're, even as parents, we want our kids to have better lives than we do, and we don't want them to fail, but failing is part of growing and learning
Totally.
and becoming an adult. If
Mhm.
you don't ever fail, then we we're not preparing you for adulthood if we don't allow you to fail. So,
Right. Yes. Well, I appreciate that advice. Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks for
well,
having me today.
yeah, well, I just so happy that you came on today, and I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you. My son is actually coming back from college actually in a few weeks, and I'm going to have him on too.
Awesome.
It won't be as nice a conversation because he's a little bit spicy, which
Uh-huh.
I love.
Yeah,
Him and
totally.
I have some, we always have those types of conversations. We
Mhm.
talk about uncomfortable things, and
Mhm.
we love each other, but we are to the point where we can agree to disagree, but
Right.
it's fun. So that'll be a fun conversation. I'll have to let you know when he gets in town.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
yeah.
I'd love to be here.
Well, I just want to thank Natalie for coming on today, because I think it's very important to have these conversations. Those of us that are in the political realm, we are not just going to be making laws and governing for the people that will tend to be out in the primary. I think generally in a primary election, we have older voters that come out in droves, but we have a new generation of very intelligent, well-informed youth that are coming up, and I think we need to do all we can to reach out to them as well and just be their voice. So, I'm Sandra Christensen, and I am the voice of the people. This is the Voice of the People live stream, and again, as a reminder, every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock. So, thank you, Natalie.
Thank you so